Adoption terminology. Have you heard all these words that are being thrown around out on the web? And also adoption professionals, which I've been guilty of before, and just assuming people know what these words mean. So we're going to break those down for you today on All About Adoption. Hi, I'm Stephanie A, and let's get started. So the first word is adoptee. That is a person who has been adopted. And sometimes you'll hear that word as adopted child, or you'll hear it as adult adoptee, but basically that just refers to a person who has been adopted. Adoption attorney. That is an individual who is licensed in one or more states, and they specialize in adoption. Usually it falls underneath family law. Now, not everybody should be hired to do your adoption. It really should be someone who specializes in adoption specifically. So when looking for a professional to work with, be sure you look for an adoption attorney. Adoption triad. You'll also hear this called adoption constellation. Adoption triad is specifically the adopted person, the adoptee, the birth parent, and also the adoptive parent. That's the triad. So the adoption constellation really includes more than just the three individuals in that triad. And it includes birth grandparents, it includes the adoption professionals, it includes adoptive aunts and uncles. So it's really more inclusive of the recognizing that adoption impacts a lot of different people in your life, not necessarily just the three individuals that are involved in the adoption triad. Agency placement. That is when specifically an adoption is done through an agency. So the expecting parents have relinquished their consented to their adoption through an agency, and their paperwork is signed to the agency. That is an agency placement. So birth father and birth mother, those are the individuals who have relinquished a child for adoption, and that is typically what they are called after placement has occurred. Consent to adoption. That is a document that the expecting parents sign to relinquish their child for adoption to either an adoptive family or to an adoption agency. Decree of adoption. That is when you have adopted and you finalize your adoption, you get an adoption decree. Disrupted adoption. That is when adoption is not able to be finalized. This can occur either before the baby was placed with you for adoption, or this can occur after the child is placed with you and the child is removed from your home and the adoption is not finalized. Domestic adoption typically has to do with adoptions that happen here in the United States with the expecting parents and also the adopting parents. Expecting parent. That is someone who is pregnant and considering placing their child for adoption. They have not made an adoption. They haven't relinquished their rights yet. They're just making an adoption plan and planning on placing. Then they are expecting parents before the birth. Family profile. That is the document that families will put together for expecting parents to be able to look at them and to learn more about them and decide whether they are the right family to consider placing their child with. Finalization. That is the court hearing that you go through in order to be able to finalize your adoption to get that adoption decree that we talked about earlier. Interstate Compact. This is also known as ICPC, which is the acronyms for Interstate Compact. And those are documents that need to be prepared in order for a child to cross from one state to another state for the adoption process. Open adoption. That is when there is communication between the birth family and also the adopting family before and after placement. So the relationship starts before placement and then it continues after placement of the child. Post-adoption contract agreement. You'll also hear this called PACA. This is a legal document that is drafted with the attorneys and between the adopting family and also the expecting family of the anticipation of what the kind of contact will be with each other following placement. Post-adoption visits. These are visits that occur before your adoption is finalized. Each state requires a different number of post-adoption reports. You're going to need anywhere from 3 to 6 reports from your child placing agency who did your homesteading. Punitive father. That is a man who has not been established as the birth father. He's an alleged birth father, but that he believes that he is the biological father of the child. Punitive father registry. Some states have registries that a punitive father needs to register in order to assert his parental rights, just in case an adoption process is occurring. So those are some of the more common adoption definitions for you. So I hope you found that helpful. If anything was confusing or you still have further questions, please feel free to make a comment below and I'd be happy to answer them for you. Thanks so much.